Welcome everyone, this is BBLicious and today I'm going to show you how to create your own poker run scorecards for fundraisers and other events. So first of all, how I got the base of the poker card is I went to Google and I did poker run sheet. I just did a search. Click on images. There's the one I chose. There are different kinds you can get. I chose this one. Right click, copy image. In GIMP, edit, paste as, new image. So I want to cover up this part right here. So I'm going to create a new layer. My rectangle select. Sorry for the heavy breathing, you guys. All part of the infection. Make sure you click on this new layer, and once you have the area highlighted, click on your paint bucket, fill it in. Now that that's done, I strongly recommend you personalize your scorecards. And I will show you what I've done with this one. I am making some for the Break the Silence Run fundraiser. And it's okay for you to see these poker hands because this video will not be posted until after the fundraiser. Okay? So, don't worry. So you can see how I personalized. I took this space and I created, these images were created by Rora, Pres Rora, TDLLMC. This is her fundraiser. And I put the images there, and then I put information in the middle, and I put the date down at the bottom. It is very important for you to label it with the event of your name. Also, equally important to put the date on it. The reason why is because anybody could buy poker sheets from this fundraiser, and like 3 fundraisers down the road could come back and say, this is my winning hand, where's my prize? Because you didn't name them or date them. So make sure to do that. Okay, where we get the poker hands. We get them from a generator, random poker generator. The one I'm using is generatormix.com. It actually puts it in a format like this. And so I minimize this and minimize GIMP as well. I'm going to do some hands so you can see how I do it. So I have this snipping tool that came on my computer. Your computer probably has one as well. I pinned it to my taskbar down here. So 5, 6, 8. So this one's already on the sheet. Click the generate button. I click on my snipping tool, new. I highlight the area I want to copy. This opens up into a window. Right click, copy, close it out. GIMP, I go to edit, paste as a new layer. And this needs to be on top. Okay, so I already measured it out, so I know this needs to be 735 by 200. Oh, not that big. And then you just pull it down. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to make the edge of this card around the same or close to, like, evenly space them. Honestly, as long as it looks halfway decent, nobody's going to care. File, export. This is number 31. Generate. Copy. paste, resize, put it where it belongs, export it, and then you start over. Generate. I'm glad that Rora is allowing me to make these for her fundraiser, because domestic violence is no joke, you guys. No joke. I am a survivor of that. I was stalked when I was 21. I left my fiance, and we owned a business together, a brick and mortar business. And it was a store. We had just opened it. Y'all, I worked 2 jobs and took out a small business loan to open this business. And we broke up. I caught him cheating on me. I left him. And before I left, I tossed him the keys to the business, to the store, because I did not want to have to deal with splitting everything up and all that. And I threw him the keys and I said, "It's yours if you promise to leave me alone." He said, "Yep." I left. I moved back home with my mom and dad, because we had been living together. We were engaged to be married. And so I moved back home. He started stalking me. He was stalking me at work. He was stalking me at home. He was throwing roofing nails in the driveway every single night. My dad had so many flat tires. He got to where he would get up. He had to be at work at 7 a.m. And he would get up and he would go out in the driveway, and he'd come in and said, "Challian, get up and go clean up the driveway." So, I had to do that a lot. I hired a private investigator. He tried to run me off the road. He tried to kill me. He tried to run me into a telephone pole. He tried to run me off a bridge. He shot at me. The man tried to kill me. He harassed my friends. He shot out the back window of my friend's vehicle. He also rammed my friend's vehicle with his car before taking off. There were witnesses that told me about it. He called my grandmother at 3 a.m. one night. And when she answered the phone, he started yelling, "They're all dead. They're all dead. There's so much blood." Like stuff like that, gory stuff. And my granny said, "Who?" And he said Terry and Annette, me and my mom. And had my granny all upset. She was calling me after he told her that we were dead and there was so much blood and all that. And my granny called our house crying and upset. She was about to have a heart attack. And I said to her, I said, "Granny, we are fine. It was Derek pulling his bullshit." She was so upset. And I said, I loved my granny. Like, she was my heart. I told her, I said, it was after 3 in the morning. I said, I'm on the way. Don't you open your door for nobody until I get there. I'm going to tell you what. My little red truck turned into a little red airplane that night. 20-minute drive was done in 10 minutes. And I went knocking on her door and I told her it was me. And I spent the night with her. This is the kind of bullshit that I went through. He physically attacked me. I was in the hospital. I had 2 50Bs out on him. A 50B is a restraining order. I was able to prove that he meant to cause me bodily harm. He was trying to actively kill me. And I had a restraining order in the county that I live in. And I also had a restraining order in the next county over, because that's where our business was, and I still had reason to go in that area. So I had a restraining order in 2 counties, and he violated both of them. I took him to court multiple times until finally the judge said, Mr. Derek, if I see you in my courtroom one more time, I'm putting you 6 feet under myself. And after that, he didn't bother me no more. But he still did petty shit, like he would call my dad's work. He didn't try to attack me anymore, but he did follow me. He continued to stalk me. Oh crap, did I just save that to number 41? I gotta look now. What is going on here? I'm missing one. Let's go back to 7, 7, 8, 9 king. Okay. 7, 7, 8, 9 king. That's number 39. And the next one is 40. So 799, 10 queen. Okay, that one's right. 41. There's a number right there. It's 41 should be 788. So I did mess it up. And now this one should be 42. That's what I get for running my flap. Okay. So he quit trying to kill me, but he continued to harass me and stalk me. And it finally dissipated, but he did a lot of stupid shit, and it was an ordeal. I'll tell you that. It was an ordeal. And that was stalking. I don't know if you would really consider that domestic abuse, but right about that time, see, North Carolina did not have an anti-stalking law at that time. And neither did South Carolina. And I remembered seeing the news where this woman had been estranged from her husband in South Carolina. She lived in South Carolina. And she had a restraining order against him, and he was stalking her and harassing her, and he killed her. He killed her. And there was a big public outcry because she had a 50B. She had a restraining order, and you know, in order to get one of those, you can't just waltz in there and ask for one and they give it to you. That's not how it works. Like, you have to go in there and be able to prove that your life is in danger. I don't know how it is now, but this happened when I was 21, and I'm 55 now, so it's been a while. But so anyway, he killed her, and it was on the news, and there was a big to-do about it. And I called the news station, and I said, I'm being stalked. And they said, we want to hear about it. And they came out to me. I met them at a restaurant. They asked me a lot of questions. They filmed me. And then they wanted to film me on the courthouse steps. And I did that. So I was on the news for it. But I met someone, and I got married 4 years later to Joe. I was married to him for 14 years, and for the first 10 years of our marriage, everyone was like, you guys are the perfect couple. Like, everywhere we went, we held hands, we did everything together. It was like we were in our first year. And we had a good life. And then some hokey shit started happening. And anyway, long story short, I had joined RLC in January of 2011. I was still married. I found it. I started playing The Apprentice. I was recruited for that. And I started playing, and I told Joe about it. And I was like, join it with me. He said, no, I'm not interested in that. He would rather sit in the living room and watch TV. That's what he wanted to do. So that's what he did. And I would go into the guest bedroom and get on the computer and get in RLC and play The Apprentice and do whatever. So one night I was on a voice call, on Skype with my team. And he told me that I needed to get off the computer. And at that time, I was still kind of new to, y'all, I joined RLC in January of 2011. This happened around March or April, because I joined The Apprentice in March, so it was right after. And I had never used Skype before. I didn't know you could mute and do all that stuff. So I said, hold on, y'all, I'll be right back. So I stepped outside of the bedroom and was talking to Joe. And I said, I'm in the middle of a meeting. And he pretty much said, I don't give a damn what you're doing. Get off the computer now. And I said, no. I'm in the middle of a meeting with my teammates. And I'm not going to tell you what he did, but he scared me so badly. I started to hyperventilate. And I think it scared him too, because he went and got me a paper bag to breathe into. And when I got myself together, I went back to the call and they had hung up on me. And I messaged the leader of the group and I said, I'm so sorry. And he said, it's okay. He said, we didn't need to hear all that. That was personal. And I took you out of the call. I said, thank you. It was at that moment I said, I'm leaving. So I went back into the living room because my husband actually, after he handed me the paper bag, all he said was, calm down, Terry. And he went back in the living room and sat down to watch TV. While I sat in the bedroom and hyperventilated out of fear. And there was other stuff that had happened previously before that night. Things like I would wake up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning in bed to him slamming his fist into my pillow. He was beating the crap out of my pillow. And I wore a CPAP, a full face mask, and it was hard plastic, and if he would have hit it, he would have damaged my face. And his fist was landing on my pillow, like right next to my head. I don't know how he didn't hit me, to be honest. Also, one morning, on a Sunday morning, I woke up to a crashing noise. And I heard stuff fly in the guest bedroom. That's where the computer was. And I had 2 printers because I did some desktop publishing. And my favorite, like, he threw both of my printers across the room, broke my favorite one, the one I did desktop printing with. He broke it. The other one was salvageable. He grabbed the computer and dragged it. He tried to throw it off the desk. It was hanging off of the desk by its cord. Everything that was on the desk was thrown across the room or into the floor. I mean, everything made a huge crashing noise. And the moment that I realized it was my husband doing that, I was scared. I was really scared. And I just laid in bed and pretended to be asleep, and then I heard him stomp out of the house, slam the door, and left to go to work. So when the incident happened on Skype and I hyperventilated out of fear, once I got myself together, I went in the living room and I said, that was the deciding moment for me. I went into the living room and I said, I am leaving. I said, I am not going to live in fear in my own house. I am leaving you. I am moving out of this house. Do you understand? He said, yep. The next day, I started looking for a house. I went and got some moving boxes, and I started packing my shit. I started in the dining room because I had a big china cabinet with stuff, and that was like, oh my gosh. That was like the least important stuff, and I was gonna stack, because we didn't use the dining room that often, and I was gonna stack all my boxes in there to get them out of the way. So I started packing, and there were some things I didn't want to pack until the day of me moving, because I think that he thought I wasn't really gonna do it, right? That he was waiting on me to just unpack everything. So there were some things that were dead giveaways that I was hauling ass, and those things I wanted to pack when he was not there. And so also I had to go have a tire fixed. And while I was at the tire shop, I called my brother. And I said, "Are you busy?" And he said, "Working." I said, "Can you stop by the tire shop? I want to talk to you." He said, "Yep, I'll be there in a few minutes." He said, "I'm just down the road." So he came in, we sat down, and I said, "I'm leaving Joe." He said, "Really?" I said, "Yep." My brother said to me, "What do you need?" He didn't ask no questions. He said, "What do you need?" I said, "I need somebody to move me. I need somebody to rent the moving truck in their name." I said, "I'll pay for it, but I need you to rent the moving truck and drive it, and I need people to help move me out." He said, "I got you." So that's what he did. He rented the truck. I gave him the cash. He made arrangements to pick it up on the day of. And after Joe went to work that day, I called my brother and said, "He's gone, let's move." My brother showed up with his father-in-law and my nephew. And they got me most of the way moved out. But here comes Joe, because guess who told on me? The next door neighbor, who he had been getting chummy with. They called him at work. "She's moving out and she's taking everything." Well, I wasn't taking everything. Even though he was being an ass and I was scared for my life, I was being fair. I took what I brought into the marriage. I was taking what was mine, and I took half of what we acquired together, my half, And I left him the microwave. I left him the washer and dryer. Like, I was very fair. And he came home, and Junior, my brother, had just left to take a load over to my new house. Because it took me a while to get out, because it took me 4 months to find the house. And I'm still in that house. It took me 4 months. And so they had just left taking a load. Now I need to check this one. Or 7, and that's 60. Okay, so this is 61. And Joe came home and he said, "You're not going anywhere." I said, "I told you I was leaving, and that's what I meant." He said, "You better call Junior, because I know he's helping you." He said, "You better call him right now and tell him he better not come back here." And I was holding a box. And I said, "I'm not doing that. I'm leaving this house." And he slapped the box out of my hand and it hit the floor. Everything I picked up, he knocked it out of my hand. And we started to argue. And then he went into the spare bedroom and started throwing shit again. I already had the computer packed up, so he couldn't throw that, but he was throwing other stuff and yelling. And I said, "If you touch anything else of mine, I'm calling the cops." He said, "I don't give a shit, call them." And I did. They said, "We have 2 officers on the way." And he came into the kitchen where I was at, and we got into an argument, and he shoved me backwards against the sink. And he said, "You're going to call them right now and tell them not to come." And I said, "No." And he pressed his whole body up against me. Now, the sink was a little tall. The sink cabinet was a little tall, and I'm short. So when someone is pressing their entire body against the front of your body and your back is bending over into the sink, why don't you just try that sometime and see how it feels? It hurts like a motherfucker. Okay? So I was in a lot of pain. And I was trying to get him off of me, and he wouldn't get off. He wouldn't listen. And he pulled his fist back to hit me in the face. And when he did, in that moment, I realized I was going to die that day. And just as that realization came to me, this is it, I'm going to die, I looked him dead in the eye and I said, "Do it." And he pulled his fist back even further, and right before he hit me, the doorbell rang. Like literally Saved by the Bell. It was the cops. When the doorbell rang, he said, "Get rid of them." He let me go. He said, "Get rid of them." I went to the door. He went into the bedroom, our bedroom. I stepped outside and I told them everything that had been happening. And they said, "Is he in the house?" I said, "Yes." They were like, "Does he have any weapons?" I said, "He has knives. He has a knife collection." I said, "I don't know if he's touching them right now, but he has a knife collection." At the time, he didn't have a gun, which I was grateful for, because he might have used it on me. I mean, I just don't know. So the guy said, "I'm going to go in there and talk to him." So one went inside, one stayed outside and talked to me, and the other one, they brought Joe back out of the house. And they looked at me and said, "Are you pressing charges?" I said, "I don't want to press charges." They tried to get me to press charges, and I said, "I don't want to do that because he has a job and I don't want him to lose it." I was being fair. I wasn't trying to wreck him. I just wanted to get out. I wanted him to leave me alone so I could move out of the house. I was leaving. I wasn't trying to wreck him. And they practically begged me to press charges, and I said no. And they said, "All right, well." And they looked at him and said, "If we have to come back out here, she doesn't have to agree to press charges. You're automatically going to jail for," I can't remember if it was 24 or 48 hours. And they said, "Do you understand that?" And he said, "Yeah." And he said, "All right, if we have to come back out here, you're going to jail." He said, "Okay." So they left. We went back inside. I was exhausted. I called Junior. I said, "Don't come back here tonight. Can you come tomorrow?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Joe," I said, I'll tell you about it later." He said, "Okay." So I slept on the couch that night because I was afraid to go to bed because I thought he was going to kill me. And I slept so miserably. Like, that couch was not made to be slept on. And I slept with a CPAP. And my breathing was all messed up. Like, I got no rest. And Joe went to bed, and he came into the living room, and he said, Terry, he said, come to bed. I said, I am not sleeping with you. He said, I'm not going to touch you, I promise. I said, no. He said, fine. And he went to bed. He got up the next morning. He left. He didn't say nothing to me. I got moved out. And I have been in this house for 14 years, I think. And at the time, we had 2 dogs, Prissy and T-Bone. They were brother and sister. They were bonded, little Shih Tzu and Lhasa Apso mix. Pictures on my profile. They were my babies. I love those babies. They were our kids. We both loved them. And Joe worked excuse me. Joe worked a lot, and I knew this. And he could not take care of T-Bone because T-Bone was a daddy's boy and Prissy was a mama's girl. And I knew that T-Bone would be left alone a lot. You know, he wouldn't have regular bathroom visits. So, and they were bonded. So I took both the dogs. Now, listen. When you're in a situation like that and you're leaving somebody, it is scary. It's hard to do, and it's scary. What made it scarier for me was the fact that I was on disability. So I made a set amount every month. And at that time, my monthly check was, I think, $865. Okay. So why don't you try going out there and finding an apartment that you have to pay for on your own, and your vehicle insurance, and your internet, and food, and power, and water, and lawn care, and phone, dog food, taking your dogs to the groomer, all that, on $865 a month. Try it. See how far you get. It was very scary for me. I was so strapped for money for the first year that I rarely ate any meat. I get paid on the 3rd. When I would get paid, I would go to the grocery store. I went to Aldi's because everybody knows they're cheaper. And I would spend about $60 a month on food. $60 a month. And I only went to the grocery store once a month. And it was hard. I didn't have a washer dryer. I didn't have a microwave. My mom and daddy bought those things for me. When I left Joe, we had 3 televisions. We had a big flat screen in the living room. We had a small flat screen in the bedroom. And then we had a cabinet TV. It was the older one because it was a wedding gift from my brother and his wife when we got married, which was in 2011. And so, you know what I took? I took the old TV that was in the guest room. I left him the 2 flat screens. Like, I was being very fair, more than fair, I felt like. So, anyway, I loved watching the Hallmark Channel. And right in the middle of watching that, my TV died. So I went months without a television. And Mama said something one time to me about watching TV. And I said, I can't watch TV. She said, why? I said, my TV died like months ago. She said, oh my God, why didn't you say something? I said, well, a TV is not that important, you know. And so my daddy bought me a TV, and I still have it. I still have the TV my daddy bought me. My daddy bought me a Christmas tree and some lights the same year, and my daddy worked part-time at he was retired at that point, and he worked part-time at this little flea market place where vendors would rent booths and everything, and somebody came in there with a used washer and dryer for like $125. He bought that washer dryer set for me, and because for about a year I was taking my laundry to their house. I was putting I would pack up my laundry, my detergent, my dryer sheets, all that, and then I would get the dogs ready. I would take the laundry outside, and then I'd take both dogs out to potty, and then they loved to go riding, and they loved going to Mama and Papa's house because they got spoiled over there. And they loved my daddy. My daddy was an animal whisperer. And I would pack them up and in the truck, take them to potty, get them in the truck, and off we would go. And I would take them out first, and then I would go get the laundry, do the laundry. It was always a whole day thing. So I did that for like the first year I moved out. And then my dad bought me a microwave that somebody came in. It was a brand new one. They wanted $25 for it. He bought that for me. Like, slowly my household came together, you know. When I left, I took the guest bed, which was crap. Oh God, it was terrible. But I had my grandmother's, after she passed, I got her bed frame and a couple of antique pieces of furniture that I purchased from the estate. And I had that stuff, and so slowly my house came together. But it's really scary, you know, when you're in a situation like that and you don't have any resources, or you have very little resources. Because when I made up my mind to leave, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do it. I don't care what it takes. I'm going to do it. And I did it. Now, I had some help, but I did it, and I don't regret it one bit. And you know what happened? 3 days after I moved out, Joe moved his girlfriend into our house. Got all his buddies to move all her shit. She was married with a kid. Him and his buddies went to her husband's house, got all her stuff, and moved her into our house 3 days after I left. And then she stayed for 3 days and went back to her husband. So then he had to get his buddies to move her shit all back to her husband's house. And one day, a few months down the road, there was a knock at the door. Terry, open up. It was Joe. I said, I'm not opening this door for you. Are you crazy? He said, I'm not going to do anything, I promise. He said, I just need somebody to talk to that I can trust. Well, he sounded really weird. He was off. I didn't know what was going on. I took a chance. I opened the door. We sat on the couch for 6 hours and talked. And he admitted he had been cheating on me for 3 years with women at work. And the one he moved into our house after the first one left, her name is Michelle. He moved her in after the first chick left. They were trying to have a baby. I was like, are you insane? This chick had like 3 kids that she don't even have custody of. She's just a baby maker. Anyway, so that was my domestic situation, and I got out of it. And everyone's situation is not the same. Everyone has a different version of that. All I'm going to say is, if you do not have resources, there are community resources. If you don't have a job, if you don't have the money to move, if you know, there are resources in your community. Reach out. Reach out to them. I used to work at the homeless shelter as a volunteer in my city, so I know there are resources. I knew about all the programs they had and everything. So there are people. We have safe houses all over this city for domestic abuse survivors. So there are resources. You have to go looking for them. And no matter what, if you're in a situation, get out, especially if you have kids. And don't forget to take your pets if you can, because a lot of times your domestic partner, the abusive one, will take it out on those that you love. And if they know that you loved that animal, they'll take it out on them. Take your animals if you can. Now, I'm not telling you this to garner any sympathy or any of that, but somebody's shooting off something out here. I don't know if y'all heard that. Leave. If someone is hurting you, leave. Find a way. Leave. Don't let yourself or your kids die because someone is angry and they can't handle it. Leave. Nobody has to put up with that. You're better than that. So, now that I've told my story, ran my flat for probably an hour, and you've watched me make a gazillion of these, I'll say good night. And if you're making your own poker sheets, good luck. You can do it. It's not that hard. Just follow the steps I've given you here. And I told my story because I don't want you to feel sorry for me. That was a long time ago. I've been gone for 14 years. But just to show you that it touches everyone. You are either in a domestic violence situation, or you know someone who is or has been there. So, yep, it's time for me to go. All right. Don't feel sorry for me. I'm glad that I got out. I made the right choice. And you can too. Good night.